Taronda, would you call the roll, please?
Cochran.
Here.
Bonner. Here. Brewer is absent. Minor.
Here.
Munn.
On here.
And Mills is absent.
This is his.
Okay,
Quorum.
Yes,
it is a quorum, right?
Quorum.
Yeah, all right. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and we have minutes from January 26th as well as February 23rd.
You want to do them separately?
Either way is fine with me, unless there are corrections to one or the other. I'm okay with the joint motion. There's Director Brewer.
All right.
Just in time to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented. I didn't see any corrections in there.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, Taronda?
Cochran.
Yes.
Bonner.
Here. Yes.
Brewer.
Yes.
Minor.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, these, next thing on the agenda is a funding request from the Texarkana, Arkansas Baseball Association. And I will, hey, good evening. Good. And April?
Yes, sir.
All right, and I will, let me
Yeah.
remind everybody that you were here in October, and we awarded you some money, but then asked you to come back in January, and then I know there's a little bit of miscommunication or whatever in January, so now you're here now. Tyrone, can you remind everyone what we did in October, just so we're all on the same page?
Yes, so the Baseball Association's total allocation for 2022 is $117,000. That is the original $50,000 that was given for their loan payment, an additional $50,000 in principal to be paid in 2022, and $17,000 for interest payments.
All right, with that in mind, then you and I spoke a week or so ago, and I asked you if you would kind of prioritize things, and know there's at least one thing that was in your original request that y'all have already purchased. So,
Actually, two things in here that we've already purchased.
okay, what were those?
We replaced the
Oh.
backstop netting.
Hang on for me just a second. I'm not sure, Tyrone or Josh, do we have to? Because we did tell her to come back. So this is not a new request. It's a request that we postponed and ask her to come back. So I'm not sure that we have to vote to hear her.
I don't think so,
Okay.
because it was addressed at the time,
Right.
and now we're here, so I
Right.
don't think so.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Little procedural thing.
Sure. We replaced the backstop netting on all four fields. That was $2,600. And we also purchased the new color that was $9,000.
Oh, thanks, Brian.
Okay. Go ahead and tell us what else you're requesting and kind of,
Okay, in prioritizing this, we feel that the electrical needs, the lights, are our main issue. We currently have one pole completely out on flag, in addition to the one that is burning when you turn it on. Multiple lights out on every field.
okay.
And when I speak about lights, I want to also say that we are the only park remaining in this area that still has wooden light poles and fixtures from the 1980s. Every other city park in this area has been replaced with the new metal light poles, LED fixtures, and we're the only ones left. We do have the 99-year lease on the park with the city, and we're supposed to provide the maintenance. It's very vague as to what that is. I feel that's the mowing and the grounds upkeep and whatnot, but the city has not come in and upgraded or replaced anything that is permanent there, such as light poles, bleachers, that kind of stuff. It's all still from the 1980s. So we do have a lot of light issues.
Okay.
going on.
Is that in the present? Is that the adding lights to AP, OP, MO, and PR?
Yeah, I've listed it vaguely as added lights, but on the actual bid from Integrity, he lists out costs for replacing a light pole, replacing light fixtures to LED fixtures, and then the cost for just, repairing bulbs.
I don't,
Are
yeah.
those figures on paper in our package?
Yes, and I think that originally there was two
Oh,
packets.
250, 350. No, we could have done that.
I don't see it.
Yeah, we don't. All of these bids were attached to that.
Was it attached back in October?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
They're not in this one. It's not in the capital one that we have, it's not in that one.
Because I have them attached to that, sheet.
All right, this is a bid from Integrity. Can I get, yeah. Thank you. All right, she's gonna go make some copies for us so that everybody will have one, and then while she's doing that, I will let you go ahead and finish the prioritization.
Yes, the next thing would be covering the bleachers on Mosley and Priscilla fields, which were the two new fields that we constructed right at 4 years ago now, I think. They're the only bleachers out there that are not covered. During the World Series, they got very hot, and there's no shade at all. Of course, when the field park was built, all of the trees were cut down around it, so that's a priority. And I attempted to host a fundraiser this year in order to get funds raised to try to do the best we could to provide some of this money, and coaches and teams were not for that. We raised, I think, $2,000, so that's not even going to purchase a metal pole, I don't think.
What type of covering are you proposing?
Just the metal poles with either a metal roof, and I gave her the bid on that as well.
Okay.
So that you could see what I was wanting there, or if we could even do the canopy covering, I think, is it Hobo that you've got some of that out? Yeah. Just anything to provide shade.
Adam, have you seen I'm gonna back up a little bit, the bid for the lighting?
Yeah, my bid, I haven't seen hers yet. But
All right.
I've seen mine for Bill Quantico.
Yeah, right. So what I was wondering is, and if you haven't seen it, you're probably not going to be able to answer this question, but how does that compare to what we did at Hobo back in October, I guess?
It's in line with it.
Okay. She's bringing the copies for us. Yeah, I thought that'd be easier than me just reading it off and.
Yep.
On the copies, is there a bid for the awning as well?
Yes, in that copy that she made.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
And on the awning bids, that is 4 different concrete pads and sets of bleachers.
4 different what, I'm sorry.
4 different sets of concrete pads, one on each side of the field.
For 2 fields.
Is that like the shade sail stuff that they put over playgrounds that
Yes, ma'am.
still allows?
Actually, this bid is for metal, the tin.
Okay.
Okay.
But if it was cheaper to go the other route, it wouldn't be in line with what every other field is covered with, but whatever we could get done would be fine with me.
Based on some of the prices that I've seen for those canvas awnings, I'm not sure that it would be cheaper to go that route.
There's
Cindy, I know
kind of
that.
a thing there. We have canvas at our church on the playground, and the weather deals with it, and snow deals with it, and, replacement comes around.
Snow completely demolished the ones at Temple.
Well, I know the
Yeah.
wind issue that we have at the ballpark destroys our windscreen almost yearly.
And those were 17,000 for the 3 of those.
Yeah, and she's wanting maybe at least 4. So this is cheaper. Do you prefer metal?
I prefer metal, yes.
You prefer
The metal.
metal, right?
And that's what every other field out there has right now.
Seem more lasting, I don't know.
Can you get the metal?
There you go.
That's a good question.
There you go.
I've been waiting for 6 months on some metal.
Oh, really? Wow.
You may not get it this year.
We may not. We may not. So then the only other thing that I would even ask for them, because at this foul line fencing. When it was put up, it was very low grade that was used. And, you know, it's volunteers at the park. They don't always know how to drive a zero-turn mower, so they ripped the whole, grab a hold of the fence and have torn it up. So it doesn't touch the ground in a lot of places any longer.
And do you have a bid for that?
The fencing bid.
Let's see.
I think I do. Seems like y'all did this in 2 weeks in October, right?
Yes.
I came the first week, and I think that's the week that you asked me for bids, and so I got them on, brought them back the second week and passed them out. That may be how they got not together.
But you've already bought the mower and done the backstop, didn't you?
That is correct, yes.
Are you asking for reimbursement for those in that too, or you just use TAVA?
Okay, let's see. It's from Richardson Fence, and, okay, the total cost is 45.
Are we particularly talking Worrell? Worrell,
And now that bid is fencing throughout the park. That was going along with enlarging the fields and all of it. That's, so it'll be much cheaper just to replace the foul line fencing than what that bid is.
I don't suppose you know how much. No. That's okay. That's okay.
You could probably do a percentage if you know how much.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, that's not easy for me to
Does it
figure
give you,
right now.
I didn't look at it. Does it give you like a figure per foot?
Per foot.
No.
Okay.
It, it's a scope of work, and then there's 7 different items, and a couple of them are 1,000 linear feet, and 1 to 25, and 2 to 30, 800, so there's,
What is each foul line? 500 feet?
I wouldn't think for,
550? So it's roughly 900 feet then.
is it just the earlier fields that were done back, way back? Not the,
pass that around.
Yeah, the new fields that we constructed, we actually ran the concrete runners when that fencing was put up, so
Right.
it'll last a little bit longer. And
Yep.
the concrete runners also keep the mower away
Protect
from
them.
it, because they don't have to mow so close.
so we're talking 3 fields?
Yes, ma'am.
Been a long time since I had a little boy in
Yeah, and the high
baseball.
school field, they use a much better grade fence on it, the high school size field, so we don't have as many issues with that one. It does have some spots, but not to the point that it needs to be replaced.
So the first 2 items that she's requesting, the 145 and the lighting, and then the cover for the bleachers, totals about 179,000.
That doesn't include the fence.
It doesn't include the fencing, which is, but half of it,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how to exactly calculate
it just, I mean,
that.
well, all of those things in this Quest 3 total 200. Correct?
That's what it says, but
I said 200,000 and I listed everything that I wanted, and then he asked me to go get bids. So, I didn't realize the lights were gonna be so expensive. So it's actually, I think, a total of like 248,000 for everything in there.
yeah.
Minus adding on to the motor shed and building and completing. Once I realized what total I have that, I just threw that. I'm not even gonna get to that yet.
So I'm kind of estimating here, but my guess would be that your 3 requests would total about maybe 200.
At least, yes.
I thought, in here it says covering bleachers at Mosley and Priscilla. I thought those were two of our newer,
They are two, they're the two newer fields that we put the added bleachers to, but they don't have cover over them.
okay,
All of the other fields are covered,
okay.
which is one of the biggest compliments that we get when out-of-towners come in, is the
Nice.
fact that they go to parks and they don't have covered bleachers. They don't have anything near what we have, bleacher-wise.
Do they look at our wooden posts?
Well,
give
they
us
complain
grief-
about the lights.
Grief about that. It depends on
They
the
can-
lighting.
Some of those wooden poles are looking kind of rough.
Now, is this bid replacing it with LED, doing the whole thing?
The
metal
whole
poles?
park, I don't think that would cover the whole park.
It wouldn't cover the whole park, it just covers
We have,
3 fields.
what, 20 to 25 light bulbs out, and I think he's gonna replace the light fixture with LED, but as, you know, individual fixtures, but not the whole thing, no. I think you're probably looking close to 200,000 or more per field to get that done, and we have 7 fields. It'd be nice if someone knew how to write a grant, to go through, have lights done. It's all big.
Working on
Uh-huh.
working on a grant writer.
Well, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna tell you guys how old I am. Don Bearden, and David Orr, and Quentin Miner, and Bill Miller started all that out there. And David Orr found some, he was quite resourceful. He got bleachers, some that the high school had cast off, and they don't know how they got them there, but that's what, and of course now you've updated all of that. But Don Bearden was working on that field, on one of those fields, when God took him. And you just don't know how much work that first group of people did.
I would love to have
Kudos.
groups of people with their work ethic. Because
Yes,
nowadays, volunteerism is like almost non-existent. It's very hard to get help out there.
anybody.
It's more of, let's show up and see what you can do for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so with us being a volunteer-only park.
Or who can we
it's harder and
hire?
Harder just to get the fields done, or trash picked up. It's really hard.
Right. I understand.
Yeah, and no one does donations as much anymore either. As far as back in the day, you would get
Right.
donations to make things cheaper or whatnot.
Mhm.
They don't do that either. So it's getting harder to
It
fund it
is.
and maintain it. With,
Mhm.
I think we have, what, 15 people? Maybe 15 listed on the board, about 6 or 7 actually show up in work, so. Yeah.
I can mow, but I can't do a. You don't want me.
They're fun. They're fun.
Maybe I'll learn before things get too far.
Need Forrest Gump.
I know, right?
To mow?
So,
I didn't know if you wanted his money, if you wanted his money, or you wanted him to mow.
both, that would be nice.
Well, I think first of all, I think that baseball brings in a lot of people to this town, and there's no question about that. And I also think that this lot issue, like we said for softball, is a safety issue too, because with the lights being out, I mean, you have to be able to see the ball. So that's the two comments I have. So
It's a good use of funds.
I do too. So
for a motion?
I am
Need a motion.
Yes.
around a number.
Well,
Yeah, the number is
What's the-
where I was wondering.
So is it the number, we're gonna say
On here?
200?
It's 200.
That's what I was
What?
thinking.
200,
Just-
she's asking.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I think that would
Total list was
cover
248.
cover the things that you're asking for.
Okay, I'll make the motion that, do I have to do this? Yeah, we have to do it. And then amend the budget later, right?
No, you can do it all in
At the same
one.
time.
Okay.
You want me to say it?
Yes.
Okay, I just need a motion to allocate an additional $200,000 to Texarkana Arkansas Baseball Association and to amend the 2022 budget to include that request.
Okay, well, that is my motion then, Tyrone.
Well said.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
I'll second.
the motion.
All right. Is there any other discussion from the commission or the public? All right. If not, we'll call the roll, please.
Cochran.
Yes.
Warner.
Yes.
Brewer.
Yes.
Minor.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. And I hope you can get some of that done.
Yes.
I know we're kind of pushing it, but
You better go order that steel, man.
I know, right? Thank you.
And fence too, maybe.
all right. The next thing on the agenda is the delinquent A and P taxes.
It's still 4 pages long.
It is, but we have, sorry. The list is still long, but we received a significant amount of back taxes within the last week. So our, April delinquency list that you receive in May will reflect all of those collections. Those letters, they helped.
There were a ton, maybe I'll look at it, I say a ton, a handful or more of just February. And some are businesses that have never been delinquent before.
I noticed that.
A large franchise restaurant.
I noticed that as well when I was completing it, and I even combed through the March receipts to make
To
sure,
verify.
yes, that.
And
so-
we had someone call, I think it was very upset.
Oh, I did receive that one phone call, and
We missed, I guess, noting their payment.
Y'all talking
So
in,
we sent them
y'all
a-
talking in,
I know exactly who you're talking about,
Yeah.
because they accosted me in the middle of that restaurant.
Yes.
they called,
And
and
I apologized up and down, and he still reams me every time I go in there about it.
that one I know about, but
Yeah, he
this
called
other
me.
stuff y'all are talking about in code, I have no idea who you're talking about.
he called me regarding that, and I did speak to him, and we did get that resolved.
He probably
I
got you.
can't remember the ins and outs of it. I think we received one payment and we didn't receive the other one. One was missed on his side and one wasn't notated. I can't remember.
He said it was
but-
in a different name. that
Yes.
had
That's
always
right.
been under an LLC, the
Yes,
burger shop, at that one,
Mm-hmm.
and then it came in and it's under something else.
Mm-hmm. but we got it cleared up and that is hard for us. And I tell them, make sure you list the business name on because it says business name. And we had that issue today where we're Googling them. We're Googling the address to make sure that we can find the business name. But we were able to get that cleared up. But I did notice the issue that Josh was talking about. We've reached out to those and we're trying to get some of those cleared up. I think a lot of them just paid late that month because they weren't even in my first 10-day receipts because I try to make note of those if they do pay a little bit late so that you all know they did pay.
I've also been in contact with a few of these. They've made arrangements. One is a national delivery service. I know y'all have been, are they good? Okay, well they told me they would be and now they are. I think that'll be represented in the May
Yes.
delinquency report.
That one.
I don't know who it is, but the remainder of them, I guess, can I get that from you tomorrow?
Yes.
So I can go ahead and do my final things for the rest of them, if they haven't paid?
Can it,
Just the major one.
and the reason I say can it wait until the end of the month, because you get a
Yeah,
lot of them this week.
Oh, that's
And
fine.
that way we can get you the most recent update list with all of them.
Sure.
Okay,
No.
because they trickle in, a lot of them are mailed on the 20th, so we don't necessarily get them on the 20th.
I'm sure that's the only one I saw listed.
National Delivery Service.
Right. Anything else that we need to know about that? Okay.
I'm still
Go ahead.
curious as to, during the pandemic, there were places that were closed periodically, and they probably, some of these aren't delinquent on anything except for 1 or 2 months back during.
I have spoke to some of those myself, and one in particular, we've had extensive conversations. And I've asked them, just send me a zero report for those months. If I have a zero report, I can take you off the list. That way I have something that shows that you didn't have any business that month. And I've talked to them and I've asked them for that documentation. It's just a zero report. It's just one page. If they send it out and fill it out and send it to me.
One restaurant has had a fire in the kitchen and has been shut down. Or they just go out of business and nobody knows, or whatever the case may be. And so you have to, even if it's zero, submit that piece of paper with zero gross, you owe zero taxes, and we can clear it. But a lot of these just do that, or closed during the pandemic and didn't provide the receipt. And this is the same, not the same process for state taxes. And, you have to submit your paperwork, and if you don't, they don't know that you're closed, and they'll just accumulate that penalty each month. And so just submit your paperwork.
I had one business that was going to be closed for a couple of months. They actually let me know ahead of time. When he sent in his tax paperwork, he actually sent a letter that said, we will be closed from this date to this date. And that almost never happens. So I'm very appreciative of those when they send especially ahead of time, so we know exactly what's going on.
But there's 2 that concern me every time I look at it, and this one's been delinquent since June of 2014.
Restaurants?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, is she still open, and she's still charging that tax when you go in there? And the one following that is also the same thing. 19, 20, 21, and 22.
Oh, yeah, right.
well, the first one, we have a certificate on. It's probably one of the first ones we ever did. What can we do about that? The Attorney General has said that we cannot, we as an A&P Commission, we can't go tell the city to go lock the doors or pull their occupancy permit. There are some other ways, but we've got to get that. We've got to get a new ordinance, and I'm behind on doing that. Now, ultimately, what that looks like, and I presented it to the commission maybe back in 2014, that was denied, and then we modified the ordinance, but it was the collection procedure and enforcement. And so there was basically a permit option, and when your permit is pulled, you have your available remedies. But I will get that to everyone, and I owe Mr. Ellington an email on that.
I mean, there's another one on page 16 that's above that delivery company, a couple that haven't paid since they've been open. I mean, and
Nope.
I'm,
And, well, and some of the people that have opened some of these restaurants were delinquent on a previous restaurant.
are opening new restaurants and still being
they'll just
delinquent.
close it once they run a bill up, and they do that with the food companies too. They'll run the bill up and not pay it, shut down and open
I'm
under
not-
another name.
Well, when they apply for their business, they do it in an LLC. And so our collection efforts are against that entity. And if that entity goes belly up and they go start another entity, you know, that's.
We just find out.
Now, this one, I don't know where the one you just said is.
Which one? Well, I'll start naming
December.
names because the Attorney General has said that we can and that this is not confidential. The Dapper has not paid since they've been open. The Golden Lady has not paid. And when I say pay, I don't mean pay. I mean they are collecting this tax from their customers and not remitting it to the A&P Commission. So the Dapper hasn't remitted since they've been open. The Golden Lady hasn't remitted since 2014. Graham Slam Bakery hasn't remitted since 2019. And Shipley's Donuts hasn't remitted since 2019. And those are the ones that are consistently have not remitted one dime in years.
But they've collected it.
Yeah.
So, same dead horse.
So moving forward with the new ordinance, we can get something put in place that might deter the delinquency. So I guess,
Well,
Josh, didn't you draft one and send it to George, and he changed it, and that's what the city council
I met
approved?
with.
They took the teeth out?
Well,
basically?
it dealt with, and it tracks, because there's a statute on tax collection in the state of Arkansas, and it tracks exactly. You know, I didn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, didn't we copy like another cities that
Yeah,
other cities
I
use?
I talked to the city attorney of Conway. I talked to Fayetteville, and I looked at all of theirs and all of their collection procedures. And we are in I spoke with George, but I spoke with members of the board too, and the city manager at that time. And their concerns were, number one, we had enforcement, but in the law, it gives the A&P Commission the ability to look at basically receipts, their gross receipts. You can call them to the floor and investigate how much money they're actually bringing in. Because right now, we ask for that one sheet of paper, and they could say they make the gross receipts of $100, but we don't have any way to verify that. And so
I actually asked for them to send their sales tax report that they remit to the state of Arkansas
Okay.
as my verification on that. And
Okay.
I get a lot of those.
Okay, but the state can do that too. They can call you to the mat and say, we want, whatever, accounting. But it also, I believe what we did is we followed the ordinance that made every restaurant or every entity that sold food and beverage to apply for a permit. And if it's initiated next week, they have to apply for the permit. Before they can apply for their permit, they have to be caught up on their back taxes. If they don't have a permit to operate in the city, then you can pull their permit. Then you can, you have more remedies available to stop that. And so that's essentially the only thing that's different. And it's not a whole lot, but it's the enforcement and the remedy. The same, notice and letters, that all tracks the same thing the state of Arkansas does to collect its taxes.
So with all that being said, you know, it's our discretion to go ahead and do like an audit their numbers or what have you, and put those remedies in there as first. You have to be updated before you get a permit and all that, what have you. So do we need to put that in an existing ordinance or redo an ordinance or?
Yeah, I forget, I don't have that with me, but, do you amend an ordinance? You can amend an ordinance, okay. That's what I would say. I mean, I've still got the draft that included all that, but,
I don't think it was 14.
Amend an ordinance?
I think you did that.
Not
since I've
us,
been
the
on
board.
commission.
Gotcha. What I'm saying,
were you here?
I think so.
resolution.
It just seems that long ago.
An ordinance is a law.
I've been on here a long time. But not 14.
Let me check. But, and the concern that the board had at that time, or at least the board members and city manager that I spoke to, was, and I've said this before, and we've talked about it before, that they didn't want to be perceived as anti-business, and then all the restaurants would go to the Texas side. Because all Conway and Fayetteville, they don't have to worry about that. Where else are you gonna go? But taxes are taxes.
I mean, it's a law that was passed by the voters back in, I think, the 90s. And it's simply not fair that business A collects that tax from Texarkana, Arkansas citizens and other citizens, and they keep it, and then restaurant B over here remits their 2% to the commission. It's not fair business either, so.
And knowing we don't have the oversight to be there when we check each person out.
And remedy.
So, right.
All right, is there anything else on that topic?
But at some point, we can't afford not to do anything.
Right. I mean, that's the money that we, give out every October, and the money that we just gave to the Baseball Association that simply won't be there if everybody decided not to remit their tax that they collect.
Well, some restaurants would make an example of you if you're not collecting it from one, you're not gonna collect it from me either. I'll give it to you when you make everybody pay it. I mean, we don't want
What's
that
that?
attitude.
Oh, they use that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one standard, no compromise. Yeah, totally.
What's good for them?
Okay, is there anything else on that? If not, we have, the next issue on the agenda is a vacancy on the commission, and we do have one application.
You have to make a motion to go into executive session. Mhm.
Right, I will move that the commission go into executive session to consider the application for the vacant position. So we need to turn these microphones off.
Yes.
Is there I guess there's a motion and a second. Terwin, would you call the roll, please?
Cochran,
Yes.
Varner,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
The
Just,
motion
is the applicant here?
No.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Speak in your executive session, if you'll allow
That would depend on the topic.
the topic you're discussing.
I don't think so.
I don't think that's allowed.
We can talk about vacancies and we can talk about.
Yeah, but I'm not, I think the only reason you can bring
Executive session.
somebody in is for a personnel matter.
Yeah, you can't do personnel.
That's my recollection of the Arkansas law
Board can't do personnel.
on vacancies. If I'm wrong, Josh, correct me,
No,
but,
that's correct.
okay. All right, then we will go into executive session to discuss this topic, and then once we come back, we will take public comment if there's a before we take any action?